Well, welcome to another P&T Tea Talks. My name is Eduardo from Paper and Tea. Today we are going back to tea, so we've been doing a lot of herbals lately. We have 5 herbals in a row, so I think we need to go back to tea, and we will go back to a very classical cup, like the cup that I would say sort of represents tea consumption in the West. So we are going to drink a black tea today. Let me introduce to you today our tip of the morning. So tip of the morning is the tea that we are preparing today. And as I said, it's a black tea, and you might know it better as actually as English breakfast or something like that, or breakfast, whatever breakfast. Okay, so this is today we are talking a little bit about how there are certain teas that are, even though they are pure, so it means they don't have any flavoring, they don't have any added, it's not like bergamot for Earl Grey, or it doesn't have any jasmine, or it doesn't have any other like strawberry or lemon or anything like that, so it's still pure, but it's still a blend, okay, because it's not a single state tea, it's not a tea that only comes from one area or one specific tea plantation. In this case, tip of the morning is a blend, it's a mix of there are different recipes. Our recipe is a mix of black teas from India. Okay, so mostly Assam, that's one of the highest content here. So it will give us like an intense, full-bodied with a little astringent black tea, but not only. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start brewing. As you may see, very like, this is kind of like my Western style of brewing. So with 4 grams per 250 milliliters, and then we are using water at 90 Celsius degrees. So I set it here with my beautiful kettle, tea fellow kettle. I set the temperature at 90, and I'm gonna set the temperature as well, the time. So I'm gonna infuse these for about 2 minutes, and we let it sit here. So as I was telling you, this is a blend, and it's also one of the most historical blends, these breakfast blends. One of the first company that started blending was Twinings, so it's a very famous one, and they created this thing that it was called English breakfast. Okay, so this is our version of an English breakfast. An English breakfast, there is no one recipe. It's just like with Earl Grey, that you can go to the supermarket or to a lot of tea shops, and you will find an Earl Grey everywhere with different recipes. They have different tea base, they have different essential oils, different proportions, etc. The same thing happened with these sort of blends. You might find breakfast blends like English breakfast. Even one brand could have more than one breakfast blend. But the idea behind it is basically to have different black teas that will be intense, and it's kind of like the fit that we see for morning tea, a tea that will give us this kick, give us some energy, like if we compare to like having coffee or something like that. So it's like having this strong, intense tea, with usually in this case black tea, since we infuse them at 100 degrees, we tend to extract a lot of caffeine, so they can be very caffeinated, so it works well. But the thing interesting about blending pure teas, it's basically that it came out because we wanted to offer consistency. The tea industry wanted to offer consistency to the drinkers, to the tea drinkers. What happened was that every year, because tea, it's a product that comes from earth, and every year the weather conditions are different, every year we sort of get a different tea. It's not, even though there are certain conditions that will remain the same, like the soil, like the manufacturing process, and all that, the weather will also determine the aromas and flavors of the tea. So if there is a season where it rained a lot, or it was super dry, this will have a certain impact in the content of the leaves, in the composition of the leaves, and eventually this will transfer to the cup. So there is, if we actually drink the same tea from the same tea plantation year after year, it doesn't need necessarily to taste the same every year. It will change, and it will be weather depending. So what happened that when the British people started drinking, they started getting black teas, they would find that the tea wasn't the same. So they would really like one type of one tea, they would drink it, and then suddenly the tea changed. It had a different flavor, it had a different aroma. So they were not happy with that. So the tea industry was very smart and they came out with blending. So there is this figure within the tea industry called the tea blender, which is a master blender, which is a person that is in charge of coming up with the same tea, exact the same tea. It has to taste the same, it has to smell the same, even though the recipe changes every year. So I grab a little bit of this tea, I grab a little bit of this tea, and I put them together, and at the end I have the same result. So the next year I put a little bit more of these because the weather conditions were different, and a little bit less of these, and then we get every year exactly the same tea. This guarantees consistency in the blend, so the person can enjoy his favorite cup forever. And the second thing is that you can create volume, right? Because just one tea plantation produces a certain amount. So if I want to sell a lot of tea, then eventually I have to sell different single origins, or I can just mix different places and keep selling the same tea in bigger volumes, right? So this is how this tea came out, how this style of tea started, and then we can nowadays see a lot of blends that work the same way. So this is our tip of the morning. This is inspired on these breakfast blends. So black teas, we use an Assam. I mean, it's a mix of different black teas from India, so it's mostly Assam and Nilgiri, which is a tea produced in the south of India. But so Assam is very strong. It's one of the most full-bodied of all varieties of teas. And then Nilgiri, it's like mid intensity. It's similar, actually. We might say it's kind of similar to a Ceylon tea. So when they both combine, we get like something in the middle. So tip of the morning, our tip of the morning is actually, it's not extremely intense. If you want to go for that, maybe you should go for Assam. But it's a bit more intense than what we might find maybe in a Ceylon or something like that. So, I was missing the smell of tea. too much herbals. They had me preparing herbals every day. But yeah. So here is traditional black tea from the. Of course, we make this difference between black teas maybe from China or from East Asia, with this style like more Chinese or Japanese black teas or Korean black teas or Taiwanese black teas. They tend to be a little bit different to what we might find in the ex-British colonies. So in India or Sri Lanka or African teas. So here in this case, usually they tend to be like more malty, a little bit like spicy, some honey notes, like there is like a little bit more sweet, bit fruity. And here we have it, so it's like a reddish kind of infusion, kind of deep color actually. But it's still very clear, very transparent. I like that into it. And then the infusion's also the same. It has it, like this a little like sweet notes like from honey. And I'm also talking a little bit so it cools down because I don't want to burn, of course. So nice. So well, this is also it's a daily cup. So it's not. I'm not gonna start talking about all the different layers that we can find in different aroma. This is a cup for you to enjoy every day. This is like a morning cup, or it's nothing that you will sit and admire for hours because there is not so much complexity to it. It's a very classical, nice black tea with this maltiness, with the medium astringency, a nice presence, but it's not something extremely complex. It's, as I said, it's like a daily cup. It's what I would just, it will tag along along the day, and it will make you some company without making too much noise. But it's still very nice. I enjoy these kind of teas. It's good when you sort of have teas that you drink in a daily basis because they are more affordable, they are cheaper, of course. And then you also have like your set of really fine teas that you take out like in special occasions or when you feel like, oh, this is the right moment to drink something special. This is a tea that you might just drink all day if you want like a daily cup of black tea. I would totally go for tip of the morning. What I didn't show you were the leaves, okay? So here you have. So as you can see, this is it's a very black tea, yeah. Very dark leaves, kind of like wiry style, the same style. They are a little broken actually, but kind of like the same style that you will find in a Ceylon kind of tea, or also in an Assam or Nilgiri. But for example, if we compare these to our single state Assam, which is Nandana, and it's a pure black tea from Assam, it's of a higher grade, and you can actually see a lot of the golden buds. So you can see a lot of the golden. This one, no, this one is actually very dark, very plain. So it's, as I said, it's a daily cup. It's a nice daily cup, but it's a daily cup after all. Okay. So so this is these are black tea. These are breakfast blend, and I'll be happy to read you guys and see if what are you drinking, or what questions do you have. If you are you the kind of person that starts the day with a black tea, or do you actually drink something different? I personally, there is always a little bit of tradition inside of you. I'm from a tea drinking country, so I'm from Chile, and we drink, this is the kind of tea we would drink, so black tea like this. So I am a black tea morning person kind of thing. It's like, that's how I would start my day. I rarely would go for green tea, or unless I wake up too late or something like that. But if it's early in the morning, I would definitely go for like a morning breakfast or an Assam or Ceylon. And even like kind of like that style, rarely I would go for a Chinese black tea. Maybe some Chinese black teas, but I wouldn't go for like Taiwanese black tea or that kind of thing. So let's see, we have Janet Santos, hello, we have Sirik, we already said hi to Sandra, it's also here. We have somebody drinking our Sakura Blaze, one of the finest herbals we have, which by the way, it's about to start being produced. I mean, I don't know if where you are. Here in Berlin, we have a lot of Sakura trees, so we have a lot of cherry trees around the city. And I went out one day and I went to see the Sakuras. So it's been going on, which I think the season is almost over, which means it's time to start making our Sakura Blaze. So we have Kidna from India, cold brew green tea from Meghalaya. Oh, so she's having a cold brew from India, green tea. Then we have Ala Berlin, hello, Phil Holly, P&T, very welcome, Ramona, Petra, Rafael. Then we have some blends with the question, is it designed, she's from Argentina, right? Is it designed to be drunk with milk? Yes. Well, I would say that more than designed to. Yeah, maybe. Well, usually when we have a blend that has a high astringency, we can use milk to make it smoother and to make it lighter. So it's sort of, milk can balance this effect of astringency. I'm perfectly fine with this, since it's not like an Assam, we also blend it a little bit, so it's not extremely intense in terms of astringent. So yeah, it might go well with milk. You can definitely add milk. I'm a purist, so I don't usually add milk, or just drink it plain. But it's also, what I mean is that it's a tea that it's also good to be enjoyed by itself. It doesn't need milk. You can add milk. It's a tea that, because on the other hand, there are certain teas that are too light or too weak that you shouldn't add milk, because otherwise the tea will disappear completely. Okay, so this is a tea that, would work well with milk, but it works perfect and it feels super nice and super pretty, just like that, just plain. We have Sirik, hello Sirik. Could you tell us a little more about grading of tea leaves? This is an interesting question, because it's a little hard. I mean, it's also because I don't have a board or something that I can write. But there is a specific grading system that it's mostly used in ex-British colonies. So it started in India, and it's used also in Sri Lanka a little bit. Not with the same complexity, and in Kenya you use it also kind of like the same style as Sri Lanka. The most complex one, it's what we have in India, and it's based on letters. So it's a nomenclature that has different letters, and each letter represents something. So it's a word. So we start with the basic of all So we can make a difference between like orthodox high quality tea, which whole leaf, so the entire leaf that just broke a little bit from the oxidation process, from the rolling and everything when we wanted to achieve this oxidation. And then we also have another grades that are broken, yeah. So we have really broken leaves, which not necessarily mean less quality. It means that the blend will be more intense because there is a higher proportion. I mean the water how the water touches the leaves, there is more surface to be covered when it's broken. So the tea infuses faster and more intense. So we have these two. So we usually, when we refer to a broken, you will always see a B in this writing, in this word. I mean, in these letters that go together. And that means broken. And then for the whole leaf, which is what actually we work with, we only work with whole leaf teas. We usually with OP, that's kind of like the base. OP is something probably a lot of people have heard of, and it means orange pekoe. So orange pekoe is actually one of the basic gradings. It's kind of like the names are very poetic, but some of them in orange pekoe, it's currently just like a historical name. Pekoe in the old times made reference to the white hair that you can find in the leaves, that you can find in buds. So it referred to a high quality, and in Chinese it's bai hao. So somebody understood pekoe from that, and then that word remained. And then orange is a word that comes from the Dutch that they started trading tea. And Orange was the royal house of the Netherlands. So Orange Nassau was a royal house, and then they added the word orange to this concept. So orange pekoe, it's a very poetic name, but actually means a tea that was harvested in a time of the year that is a very average one. So OP, some people think like, oh, I'm gonna have an OP. It's actually the most basic one of all whole leaf tea in the category. Then we start adding letters to the left side. So we have OP, and then we can add A and F. So we have fine orange pekoe, which is like, it's a nicest, no, sorry. So I'm a little, yeah. So F, it means flowery. So the first F, so FOP, that means flowery orange pekoe. It means that it's closer to the spring, so it tends to have a little bit more flowery notes, basically. I'm trying to explain it very simple, so not too much technical details, but just for you to have an idea. Then we add the letter G, which leaves GFOP. G stands for golden, and this is when we see a lot of buds. So when the tea oxidizes, when the leaves oxidize, buds, they remain fresh buds, they remain golden. So when I have some golden in my tea, I would talk about a golden flowery orange pekoe. Then if I have a lot of golden, it means I have a T at the beginning. So it's TP golden flowery orange pekoe. And that's actually the grade for our Assam. So we have an OP in our collection, which is our Ceylon, which is a basic grade. We have a TGFOP, which is the TP golden flower orange pekoe, which is our Assam. And then usually Assam stays there. It doesn't go higher than that in Assam. But then some regions like Darjeeling, the teas are from such outstanding quality that they go even higher and they add more letters to it. So then you add, then you have TGFF, so it's finest TP golden flower orange pekoe, and then you add S, special finest TP golden flower orange pekoe. And that also has to do with the quality of the tea. You can add a 1 at the end to refer to every category. So you can have OP1, FOP1, GFOP1, TGFOP1, and that means that that's the highest quality that you can actually get in that range from that production. This is a little confusing, I know, but I try to explain it very simple. And this is something that it's people that produce tea, they will taste it and be like, oh, this tea falls into this category. And it's not something too commercial for the clients to actually work with it, but for the brokers, so people that buy teas in India and Sri Lanka and Kenya and all these countries in the tea auction, they will base their selection most of the time on these gradings. So the company says this is the grade, they will actually try it and be like, oh yeah, this is the grade it has. And then it helps them have a little bit more information about the grade, like the tea that they might be buying. It is a complex subject. It's not easy, and it's not easy to explain it in a tea talk. But I'll try. I tried my best. I hope it made a little sense. What's the difference between an Assam and a Darjeeling? Well, between an Assam and Darjeeling, first is the region, because those are two different regions. They are like about 160 kilometers apart, but like 1,000-meter high in difference. So Assam is in the valley, and Darjeeling is up in the mountains. So Assam teas, they usually, another big difference between the two of them is that there are two subspecies of the Camellia sinensis that the two most important ones that we use in tea production. So it's Camellia sinensis is the plant, and then we have Camellia, something that's called Camellia sinensis, which is originally from China, and then we have Camellia sinensis assamica, which it's also, from Asia, but it was discovered in Assam Valley, so that's why it's like the one from Assam. So usually Camellia sinensis, they are both different in terms of how the qualities of teas that they produce, the weather that they get used to, the features are different. Assamica has bigger leaves, they grow higher. And so, for example, one of the main differences is that Assamica variety, they like hot weather better. So they don't get along, they don't like cold weather that much. On the contrary, the sinensis variety, they like cold weather better, which makes it perfect for high production, so high altitude, which usually produce some of the best teas, right? So actually in Darjeeling, most of the tea plantations developed in Darjeeling were developed with the variety coming from China, Camellia sinensis. So there we have a lot of differences. And then at the end, in Assam, it's a very strong, intense, full-bodied cup with a lot of expression in the mouth. Not so much in the nose, so not extremely aromatic, not so complex. And on the other hand, Darjeeling, it's a very light-bodied with a nice astringency, a nice presence, a lot of complexity in the nose. That's kind of like big differences. So what about African black teas? Satengwa, we have Satengwa. What do you want to know about African black teas? We've been drinking, we were having some Kenyan teas a couple of weeks ago. When we talk, for example, about these kind of blends, black teas are also used a lot. So, for example, especially for these traditional breakfast blends that you might find in supermarkets that are made from tea bags or so, a lot of the time they have African teas. Even Argentina, that I see somebody there from Argentina, a lot of some of the tea end up in low quality tea bags for breakfast blends or that kind of thing. Indonesia produces a lot of that as well. But of course, we are not going to compare to you, Satengwa, that you produce really nice and special stuff. You probably won't end up in a breakfast blend. You will be kept separate and enjoyed separate. Like our La Pancientor comes actually from Satengwa, that is here online. That's such an honor to see you here, guys. So we have some blends. Colette from Ireland is asking, usually only create black teas in winter with the spices usually, but I've extended the season this year. Yeah, I also I do that. Like I'm weather dependent on the kind of teas. And black teas, since they are they give this warmer sensation. For me, they make more sense in colder time. So, or when it's cool or something like that, you want to warm up, you can go for some black tea. So informative. Thanks, Kidna. I hope you enjoy my very short description. I could go on for I used to do a grading class, so it was 2 hours talking just about grading. But this is the easy quickie for understanding gradings for black teas from the, as I said, ex-British colonies. Is it only for black tea? If you mean the grading, Austrian Ashley, yes, that's only applied for black teas because it was developed in the ex-British colonies. So and they produce black teas. So I've seen it. They do use it in India or things like that sometimes with green teas, but it's very, very, very rare. It's something mostly from black teas. And funny, China doesn't use it. China doesn't talk about this for their black teas as well. They use other wordings and other things. You did a great job explaining the grading system. Thank you, Jay Gustafson. Okay, yeah, there is a move towards tea, the specialidad. Yes, I've heard in Argentina I was talking with a friend. I've heard you starting producing some handcrafted teas, and there is a little bit more thought to the making. I've actually tried some of this was a long time ago. I think it was like 8 years ago or even longer that I tried some like first batches of like handcrafted Argentinian tea, which was actually kind of good. It was similar to a Ceylon kind of thing. Evi Cara, oh, you deserve the expertise. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this work. Well, this one ran a little longer. Thank you for the interesting questions. I think I'm going to leave you. Oh, what's the difference between first and second flash? Oh, that's the time. So we have Darjeeling and Assam. The difference is the region, and then the first and second flash, it's the timing. So when we pluck, it's the first plucking, and then we let the plant rest a little bit, and then comes the second plucking. And then you can also in some places have third flash, fourth flash. So when we talk about the word flash, it means the plucking. It's the moment where I pluck. Some countries they do 3, 4. In Darjeeling, for example, there are 6 pluckings that are important, but then the first flash, the second flash, and the third flash are some of the most important ones in terms of quality. So guys, thank you so much for joining. I'll see you tomorrow with another tea, right? So take care, stay healthy, don't leave your house if you don't have to. Wear a mask now because it's mandatory here in Berlin. We can go out, but we have to wear masks. So take care, bye.